to welcome our next speaker for the Beyond stage. Put your hands together to welcome from Azure AI Applications and Agents GMT leader from Microsoft. Please welcome Mr. Mike Chan. Good morning, Mike.
Hello.
Over to you.
All right. Let's try to see if this works. OK, there we go. All right, so welcome. My name is Mike Chan. I am the Asia leader for our AI agents and apps team. I've actually been with Microsoft about 24 years now and always been in and out of this space. I wanted to share with you a little bit about, kick forward there, about what's actually happening in this space. We actually, if you saw Satya's earnings announcements, there's actually a little bit of tidbit in there. It talks about our progress in the agentic space. The first question I want to sort of answer for you is why now? What is this whole agent thing, right? How is this different than generative AI, all these LLMs that have happened? And something very interesting has only happened literally in the last couple of months. You see here, these are actually the OpenAI models. I didn't put the GPT-5 models up here yet. From August and October, they released a whole bunch of them, right? What we actually see happening, however, is that the marketplace is actually saturated. We love C-Line. We played around a lot as well and worked with AI Singapore in those efforts to build out local LLMs. But what you see here is that you actually see speciation of LLMs. C-Line's a great example of that, right? The major players out there are not going to be building Bahasa support. They don't know what Singlish is. They don't understand local terms, and they probably never will, right? I dare you to go call up Meta and say, hey, I want Llama to speak Southeast Asian languages better. Probably not going to work. Multiply this across the multitude of industries, businesses, languages, and this is only going to continue. There will be better LLMs that understand American law better versus British law, right? This is actually going to be things that will continue to develop. So, along with this fact is the fact that your business processes, your workflows, your customer interactions, all of those are still there. That has not fundamentally changed, right? You still have this user interface. Now, what changed is that in the last, call it 3 or 4 years, everybody's kept talking about generative AI. There was a prompt and a response. And you could hear a lot of these LLMs are great at summarizing. But starting with GPT-3.5, a couple of interesting things happened. GPT-3.5 was the first major LLM that could call tools. What's a tool? A web search, actually, is a tool. Prompting for, hold on, I think I need more user input, is a tool. Pulling information from a database or a document or anything else is a tool. And then if you think about what started happening around GPT-3.5 until today, you started hearing this term about these other LLMs that had quote-unquote reasoning capabilities. The goal wasn't just to summarize or create. It was actually to say, hey, I need to plan out the steps required to do something. It wasn't always just a web search or take a very tactical thing. It was, you can actually ask a fairly simple question at first, but the LLMs would say, hold on, I think this is actually a 10-step process. I need to do a web search. I need to summarize the web search. I need to create maybe 7 other steps. Maybe I need to look in a database. Maybe I need to compare some documents. Then take that framework I just learned about on the on some web search, apply it to the research that I just did, and keep running, actually. This is actually the shift that we started seeing. And what I just talked about is this shift from this generative AI trend to this agentic trend. But I will tell you, this is the fastest in my 30 years of being in the technology industry that this change has occurred. Most people don't even feel or understand of what happened here. By the way, Microsoft already does this in all of our Copilot agents. If you've ever run the researcher, if you've ever run these more advanced LLMs in the last 6 months, you'll notice a lot of them will just start saying, the first response isn't an answer. The first response is thinking, right? And then it'll tell you, what is it doing? And then it'll show you, oh, I'm doing a web search here. Is this the right answer? Sometimes they'll even have adversarial LLMs check the work. You'll notice that you can actually get much better results if you ask 2 different LLMs, does this look right? And if it does, it's just like asking another human or a set of other humans, hey, do you think I did this correctly? Right? And this has exploded into a massively much more complex world. By the way, if you think about something like, hopefully some of you have played around with M365 Copilot, it looks a lot more like the right-hand side. It is hyper complex. This, by the way, doesn't even show you the things we do on responsible AI or content filtering. You'll also, you probably hopefully have heard, we've also announced that Claude as a LLM is also available in GitHub Copilot as well as M365, right? So you can actually swap it out. We don't even have to just use GPT-5, which is also available. These types of very advanced architectures allow you to be very flexible with those types of LLMs. So if you think C-Line is going to be the best for your customer's call center because it understands all the local languages, swap it in, swap it out, have it as one of those agents that you can call upon. But the logic capabilities of GPT-5, of Claude, the latest Claude, Sonnet and Opus, those are actually what's also quite interesting. And they end up being what you see up there as the coordinator agents, right? They kind of do the planning work. This is crazy transformative because up till today, everybody only has 24 hours in a day if you're an IC. And if you're a manager, you have a team of people. We are vastly and very quickly starting to approach the era where these agents will actually act and operate like people. Satya announced today there are 26 million users of GitHub Copilot. That used to be 26 million, think of those 26 million developers using GitHub. Yes, they were using autocomplete and things like that. But now each one of them can spin up numerous agents. The first job I had at Intel was to refactor Visual Basic code bases. I will tell you, it took me 3 months to work that tool in the supply chain. That job can be done by an agent today. That job I used to have as an intern at Intel should not and does not exist anymore, right? I could now, if I was starting a new job, I would spin up multiple agents. One of those agents could start refactoring the code base. I'd kick off a next agent to start building new features that we backlogged, right? So that first developer employee these days is actually able to have a team of developers, and this is happening today. We announced and released GitHub Copilot agent mode, and that's exactly what it does. It uses all that agent architecture I just told you about here, and actually says if you want to refactor your code base, if you need to upgrade a versioning of a tool, if you want to go scan all this code and find potential security issues, you kick off an agent to do that. And by the way, they will all run simultaneously. The first developer now has a team of software development agents. Now, that's just an example of what is today. By the way, I should tell you, you may not know this, but we've done a lot of work around GitHub and GitHub Copilot and Visual Studio. These latest releases were actually written with that new agentic model. We've already reorganized that team. This is actually why the speed of pace of development at Microsoft is so high these days, right? It did take us a while. We did a lot of learnings, although that take about 5 more hours to explain to you all the things that we've done there. But the products of Visual Studio and GitHub Copilot itself are actually developed in that model I just described to you. Our developers are literally multiples more effective and faster with higher quality than they were even just months ago. So what does this really imply, right? Everybody can probably say, yeah, I experienced this, Mike. I've used an LLM. I have it in all my chat bots. You can go play around with C-Line through Telegram, right? Prompt and response. This has been around for, believe it or not, only about 3 years. We already have this. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because I also work in the sales and marketing organization. Every account manager has a dreaded exercise they have to do called account planning. And at Microsoft, it's very complex. Do they even own GitHub? How much do they own? What about Office? What about Azure? Are they using competitor products? SQL, Oracle, ServiceNow, what plugins? I could go on and on and on. There's about 1,000 products of Microsoft, and that poor account manager had to figure out, man, what do I do here? Even today, we already have agents that can actually pull licensing data, usage data. In many ways, sometimes, Microsoft may even know more about what's going on in a customer's environment because of the ease of access. You don't have to know how to write up a SQL query or remember which Power BI dashboard. We have agents alive today that I can literally just say, what is the Copilot usage at DBS Bank? Literally, I type that in. And in 3 seconds, it comes back. And then my next question is, OK, well, how's the Copilot usage increasing week over week? Put that into a table. It spits it right back out. Takes about 3 seconds again, right? This is actually what's possible today. And then you'll notice I can ask an interesting question. Hey, can you build me the account plan for DBS? Using all of these different agents, the licensing agent, the sales agents, the strategy agents, do a web search on what DBS cares about, tell me what they've done on Agentic AI, figure out what competitive products they've been using, and give me an account plan. That's what this looks like, right? Already underway. We've got it mostly working. It's quite cool. Lastly, imagine this new workforce. So I just talked to you about how an account manager can be much more effective with multiple agents. I just talked to you about a developer, how they can be much more effective with multiple agents, right? All of these are actually happening today. And this is what we're calling a frontier firm. It's this journey that really started right at the beginning of 2025. But we're starting to see this. And the most interesting startups, by the way, you can kind of leapfrog 1 and 2. You jump straight to 3. We know of many startups here that have less than 50 people. They take 1 round of funding, they're profitable, and they're basically almost a unicorn already. This is what this model has enabled startups, as well as any company who's willing to make the change, accelerate from their business and organizational perspectives. So hopefully I've convinced you of one thing in this very short time, in the last 10 minutes. Agentic AI, the ability for these agents not just to do more simple things, but to actually take action, call tools, do reasoning and thinking, will transform completely any type of workflow and even the employees that you have. This actually has organizational implications, right? You see this happening right now. This is actually causing a lot of companies to rethink, do I have the right people with the right skill sets? Do I have the right organizational structures? And this is happening. It's kind of unavoidable. Imagine the day when cars showed up versus horses. The entire ecosystem changes, right? The concept of transport changes. The way you write code changes. If you don't, you know what's going to happen there, right? So I'm actually going to share a little bit about, maybe just highlight what I talked about a little bit earlier, since this is really about what happens with developers, okay? This is also quite interesting because that agent thing that I just talked to you about, I talked a lot about developers, but this is my favorite story. I got a call from a friend who is a CFO of a startup, okay? Because my dad gave me a call, says his warehouse is in trouble because the tariffs and I don't know what's going on. I just know my revenues have dropped. He basically spent the next couple of weeks, and note, he does not have a computer science degree. He's a finance person, logical, knows how to work Excel. These tools enabled him to basically write a lightweight ERP system. He goes, Mike, in the old days, my dad would have to buy a piece of software. We'd have to pay a partner to go do this deployment. Instead, he called me, and for fun, I wrote an ERP system. It only took him 4 weeks. He's not a coder. Using these types of agents, he goes, like, 1 week, I had an MVP. I spent another week arguing with the LLMs to fix bugs that it said weren't bugs, but they were bugs. I spent another week doing the right security thing so that it would send a text message with a PIN so that it's not like anybody shows up on the website knows my dad's warehouse inventory, right? And the last week, he basically said, I made it look nice. And if you go there, he's got a whole iPhone app, right, that does a multi-factor authentication. And he goes, I built this thing in 4 weeks. I'm going to go do another startup now. Because this is what has changed. Non-coders can take advantage of this. That's what's so powerful. Even using this to create prompts that you then put into an LLM is actually super, super powerful these days. So think about this. Those 26 million GitHub Copilot users, right? Yes, they're paying their anywhere between $30, $40, $50 a month, depending on what licenses you buy. You can actually see this happening. On the right-hand side, this is a real live capture. You can kick off multiple of these agents. I've seen people with the screens, multiple screens, 4 agents working on the same code base simultaneously, doing many, many different things, as I said. That used to be a team of developers. And you hear about all these language models now. Claude can run for 30 hours straight and still maintain reasonable context and focus, right? That's only going to go up. The speed and capability of these is actually only going to increase, and the cost of doing this actually is only going to keep going down. So you can see this is someone actually rewriting an entire application just doing Copilot prompting within GitHub. So last thing I'll leave you with before I talk a little bit about the program that we are releasing here is I've actually walked you through almost an entirety of how we see transformation happening at Microsoft. M365 Copilot makes your employees more productive. You get to reason over all your graph data. It knows who your manager is. It knows your emails, your Teams chats, your recordings. It can take a lot of information that even occurred in a meeting that you were not a part of, but you were following, and give you all that information and build it into your knowledge, right? Information is a productivity factor now. That's M365. We've got Copilot Studio that has a lot of hooks. We announce almost new connections every day. We've got connectors into ServiceNow, connectors into SAP, connectors into all sorts of other back-end tools so that you can do a low-code, no-code, creating your own agents. And then if you're going to deploy this stuff at scale, we have AI Foundry, which is where we put all of our third-party models. We actually have governance tools that track observability. You can easily swap those LLMs like I talked about, right? In China, you can really only run DeepSeek. In Indonesia, you got to run your LLMs locally. And in Singapore, you might want to run Sea Lion, all for the same app, right? So that's how you can do a lot of the governance and control is within Foundry. And then I talked to you about GitHub already. This is just a quick snapshot. We are adding more and more support for different LLMs every day. Those ones that you see at the top, these are actually first-party supported running on Microsoft infrastructure. So you see Mistral, Llama, Black Forest, DeepSeek. Yes, there's Microsoft models there as well. And obviously the OpenAI, which we just announced we've extended our partnership with them out to at least 2032. So Foundry allows you to take a lot of these and actually build very, very quickly and let you test very, very quickly which LLMs work for you as you are building these agents. We have capabilities there that help us share the context, i.e., think of this as the document that 5 agents all co-work on, just like you have a spec sheet, so that all of your developers are working towards the same goal, right? This is the latest design models that we're seeing. So I'll close with this. We've got a great partnership with AI Singapore and NUS. We have a program that we just announced and released 48 hours ago. Don't worry, I'll show you a QR code next if you want to go apply to this. In our partnership with the Singapore government, they actually have made tech grants available up to $1.2 million. That's $800K for proof of value, $400K for proof of concepts. Obviously, we've got Microsoft architects and technologists here to help you as well, and working with Block 71 on all of these, right? For a 10-week program to get you up and running with this. So there's the QR code on the right-hand side if you want to go take a look and try to apply. I'll leave that up here. But my time is up. Thank you so much for hearing about what Microsoft is doing in the agentic space to enable developers. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sold, Mike. Right person at the right place at the right time. Thank you very much. Really wonderful presentation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're having just the best time with us here on day 3 at the Beyond stage here at Switch.